Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Shawn Kane. How you doing today, Shawn?
Doing good, Cory. Doing good.
Excuse me there.
So I heard there was a parade in Columbus yesterday.
I heard there was a parade too, and
I heard there was some rain on it though.
I don't know if anything really truly justifies using the term raining on somebody's parade, but I just to a T. Did Jim Knowles rain on Ohio State's parade? To a T.
Yeah, it was that Brock Lesnar to Hulk Hogan, party's over, Grandpa. If you've ever seen that
No,
clip,
I have
that
no idea
reel.
what you're talking.
I'll have to tweet it to you later. But that was basically us to Ryan Day. I guess it would be more apt to say to Larry Johnson because he's a little bit of an older gentleman.
All right. There it is. Okay, I got it now. I watched it real quick. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. Shawn, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much here, but it is January 27th. And to me, this is when our podcast begins to separate itself from the men and the children. When a lot of, Penn State podcasts kind of get you through the season and then they're gone again, and then they randomly show up some random day in August. That's not us. We're not going anywhere. I was really excited. I got to write in my book. I'll take a picture of it later. But I got to write what is now season 5, 2025 to 2026. Got to write that down. We are officially in a new season. We wrapped up the Hardee's Award show last week. I need to still post the videos. I've been behind on that, but I am going to post all the winners in like a little video. I did the Jomo Award the other day. We got some love from Phil Trotwine and Jaywan Sider, so that was cool.
Yes, we did.
So I'll get those all out on social media as well. But otherwise, we are just rip the rear view mirror off of your car because we're only looking forward now. And what better way to start the first episode of the new season than with some massive breaking news that Penn State hires current and now former defensive coordinator from Ohio State, Jim Knowles. Blockbuster deal. First of all, Jim Knowles is now the highest paid, and pun intended on the there, by the way, the highest paid assistant coach in college football.
Careful, they'll sue you.
This podcast could not afford a lawsuit like that.
We're going under now.
The highest paid assistant coach in college football is a member of the Penn State football staff. I mean, Shawn, I don't know if you and I have ever thought that something like that would ever be in the realm of possibilities for Penn State. Don't even worry about Ohio State for a second. I'm sure we'll talk about Ohio State and their absolutely insane loser fans at some point during this episode. But just focus on Penn State for a second. And the fact that Penn State on their payroll has the highest paid assistant coach in college football. Do I need to say that one more time? The highest paid assistant coach in college football is on Penn State staff. I don't even care if he's not any good. In this specific moment, it's just the fact that he is the highest paid assistant coach in college football and he's on Penn State's team.
Well, yes, there's a big picture and a small picture, right? And Cory and I were just talking about this before we went live. Small picture, and I hate to even call it a small picture because you get top 3 to 5 defensive coordinator in college football. the big picture is we really are all in. Like, it's not just saying, every year our goal is to win the national championship, because dozens of programs say that. If not 100, if not maybe in the hundreds, say that every single year. But only a few really mean it. Like, the coach might mean it, but does everybody? Does the athletic director, does the president, does the board of trustees, or the board of whatever at their respective school, do they mean it? Does the alumni base mean it? Do the fans mean it? And the answer at the Pennsylvania State University is yes. And that is the big picture get out of this. And do I think Jim Knowles is going to do well here? I do. But the bigger thing is he's going to be getting paid north of $3 million per year. So what does that tell you? It tells you we have that money to give him. And guys, I don't think all our money is wrapped up in Jim Knowles. I think there's a lot more.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money. Sorry.
There is a lot more to this. It just has to be. And, I got to give credit, too, to Pat McAfee. Because Pat McAfee's been all over this since the fall. Just saying things that we didn't really know yet, that Penn State's all in. Katron Allen and Nick Singleton are coming back. Their NIL's good. And we were all like, what the hell's he talking about? Like, we all kind of thought, it's okay. We're not doing awful financially, but no, I think we're doing a lot better than people realized. And I do believe, I'm kind of making a few inferences here, the playoff run definitely helped. And it gave people a taste of what we could be. And we got we go to Indy unexpectedly, play well, but lose. We trounce SMU at home, which if you were at that game and you have some money, I think you're going to be willing to maybe fork over some that you might not have been before. And then if you went to Arizona for the Boise State game, and we shut down the Heisman Trophy runner-up, and then we played close but no cigar against Notre Dame. It let you know we're almost there, and we just need a little bit more, and we're going to get there. And to say this is an all-in move is an understatement. So I think it's not only Jim Knowles, it's everything else too.
I agree with all of that. And I think it's better to start big picture anyway. We'll talk about the specifics on the show today about Jim Knowles and what to expect from his defense. I think Mike Edmondson on X asked about the difference in scheme, and we'll talk about that all in a second. Welcome into Florida Cop 911 for being here. Shawn, I agree with everything you just said. So just to wrap up your thought there.
Thanks, man.
There is some serious momentum behind this program right now. No doubt about it. And I think the playoff did help. My big picture thing is again kind of just really cementing what you just said, because I want it to be very clear. The big picture is not about what Jim Knowles does this year. It's not even about what Jim Knowles does next year or the year after that. The bigger picture here is Penn State is committed. They have flipped the proverbial switch to be great, to actually win something. They have made that commitment from what it seems. Forget everything else beforehand. They have made a commitment now to compete for national championships, like you said. But what I want to be very clear on is this is not a one-time deal. This is not a now or never. This is not a make it or break it year for the 2025 season. Is it a fantastic opportunity? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. But this is not end all be all. This, ladies and gentlemen, is really just the beginning of what Penn State football can and will be. It's momentum, the alignment isn't going to just stop after the 2025 football season for better or worse. This is really just a final commitment. The stadium's being built. There's NIL help coming. There's revenue sharing coming. People are excited about where the program's heading. There's alignment from the president to the athletic director to the coach to the training and coaching staff to the players. We've never had it like this before. And so don't get me wrong. I'm very excited about the 2025 football season. I'm here talking to you about it in January. But do not be mistaken. This is just the beginning. And oh, by the way, this feeling, this level of commitment that you are experiencing at this moment, let's be very clear about this. We are not the only team to have this, to feel this, to see this level of commitment from the top to the bottom. There are other teams out there that have shown this level of commitment for many, many years. And so just because you are now committed, just because you do your homework doesn't mean you're going to ace the test. And just because you are now aligned and committed, they don't give trophies for being aligned or for being committed. It feels good that the work is being done behind the scenes, but you don't get a trophy just because of that. And many other teams have not been able to finish the deal, even though they have been committed. So it's a great start. I'm excited about 2025, but this is just the beginning for Penn State.
Yeah, good way to put it. I mean, pretty much the entire SEC is all in and committed. And they're not all really good. Like, they got good teams down there. But I don't think anybody would say that Florida isn't committed. But Florida hasn't been good in years, so who cares? It's about putting, but the reason it's important is that's the base. You need that in order to go and become the type of dynasty. Well, first off, to just win a national championship, but then be able to string things together. You need that level of commitment at a minimum. And something, I do think, when we won the Big Ten in 2016, first off, college football was much different then. Facilities were like the most important thing. And now we have state-of-the-art facilities, but it's changed. And I also think there's an element of the fan base that was almost happy enough with where we were. And that ain't the same anymore. And I think back then we were coming right off the sanctions. We came off, a period of what, Corey? 4 mediocre seasons in a row. And then it was like, oh, this is going to be us now. Cool. But then that gets old quick because the humans aren't conditioned to just be stagnant and to just want to stay the same, especially if you're not doing really, really well. They want more. And I think that's what we're seeing now. And we have the right athletic director. We have the right head coach. We have the right president to get us to where we need to be. Sean, I think we have the right head coach.
The thing about that 2016 season to me that really stands out to me was that was premature.
Yes, absolutely.
You think about Saquon Barkley, who's now going to the Super Bowl, for those that weren't watching on Sunday, and had 3 touchdowns in the NFC Championship. That team was premature for what the program wanted to be. It gave a false flag of hope as far as where James Franklin realistically had that program. Even 2017, 2018, if you look at those 2017, I think Roar Lions Roar had a question about would the 2024 team, was it like Franklin's best team? And somebody brought up 2017 team, and the 2024 team would have beaten any team in 2016 or 2017 or 2018 or 2019. It wouldn't have been close. The amount of depth that they had along the offense and defensive lines would have 2016 and 2017 teams wouldn't have been able to move the football because the offensive line on those teams wouldn't have been able to do anything. They were so premature from a depth perspective and from a size up front. it kind of led this idea that Penn State was closer to being championship caliber than they really were. And I think that actually hurt Penn State's momentum, like you said, from an investment perspective. I think a lot of people were like, oh, they're right there, when they really
Yeah.
weren't right there. They had a lot of, players that could solve a lot of their problems for them. A lot of players that could fill the gaps for them. The Mike Gesicki's, the Chris Godwins, the Saquon Barkley's, even the Trace McSorley's, the ones that could make plays even though they really shouldn't have, made that team and really the state of the program a lot better than it was. They were not close to where they are right now with a 2024 season. They just weren't. They consistently, remember that 2016 team lost to Pitt. Like, were their highs very good? Yes. But were their lows very bad? Yes. And you can say what you want about James Franklin. He has been able to basically remove those valleys. Did the peaks need to be higher at times? Absolutely. But he has removed those performances. And that, I think, is really more of a testament to the overall depth and consistency that he's built that they didn't have in the early teens. So this program is definitely in a better spot than it was 7 years ago.
Yeah, because back then, I mean, 2016 when we lost to Michigan too, the reason we got blown out was we had a few injuries on defense.
Yep.
And the whole defense
targeting.
the targeting, and Jan Jansen blows his ACL out, and then it just went poof. The whole a good defense just was done because they had a few injuries, and I just don't think that happens now. And look, those teams are still dealing with the ramifications of the scholarship reductions. So they were, even a few years after, they were still dealing with that. 2017, I always point to Ryan Buchholz getting hurt at Ohio State. If that doesn't happen, we probably win that game. But he goes out. All of a sudden, we can't pressure JT Barrett. And a good defense again, a good starting defense, kind of gets exposed. Where that just isn't going to happen now. Not saying we'll never lose to Ohio State. I mean, we haven't beaten them since 2016, but it's not going to be because of that. It's not going to be because one guy gets hurt, but we're done now. Like remember, that's just not reality anymore.
They almost beat Ohio State this year without Deni Dennis Sutton.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, they can afford to lose a high caliber 4-star guy, or let me just say it a different way. They can afford to lose a first round pick and still keep up with the Ohio States of the world. They couldn't do that a couple years ago. If they would have lost
the Heisman Trophy runner up without Abdul Carter.
Right. We got some comments here. One Take State says Saquon stood out to me even in 2016 every day since. Yeah. Wayback says, shout out to Pat Kraft. It's an amazing feeling knowing that our school is going all in on our football program. We are making waves. Yeah, and you know what? There's been some moments with Pat Kraft even where I was like, is he really gonna? He talked the talk, but is he gonna be able to walk the walk? Even when it came to the basketball program, but he's been able to do really well there. I did want to get to one question that Florida Cop had. Said that Ohio State offered him $3.5 million. And so if he declined, it wasn't just about the money. And so I want to just read you this excerpt straight from Jim Knowles' fiance. And you can take this for whatever you like it to be. We don't do much rumors on the show. But this is the perspective that they had going out of this.
It was hard not doing rumors too all week.
Right. Andy Kennedy says, and I quote, so first off, they would not allow Jim Knowles to go to the celebration, the parade, unless he signed their contract for $2.75 million. He asked to let him celebrate with his players, and they said no. Oklahoma and Notre Dame offered 3, Penn State 3.1, and Ohio State 2.75. Slap in his face that they knew the other offers, and all this stuff about Larry Johnson and Ryan Day. Jim started playing his defense after the Oregon game, not Larry Johnson's. Once he did not agree to the 2.75, it was 10:30 at night, and they told him he'd be locked out of the building at midnight. He even said, "If you let me come in and celebrate with the players, I'll just nod and smile and shake hands." They said no. It would take away from the celebration. Idiots. Him not coming took away. I'm 99% sure they are who broke the story because they said he told his players the night before he was coming back, and that's not true. You go where you are wanted, period. I'm so angry about all that stuff out there about Jim Knowles, end quote. So take that for what you will. I'm sure there's going to be bias on both sides of things, but I think it's very clear that Penn State shelled up a serious amount of money, and I don't think it was all because of the money, like Florida Cop says, but I do think there was a level that Jim Knowles wasn't being treated very well at Ohio State. Whether that was because because he didn't get along with Larry Johnson Sr., whether that was because Ryan Day wasn't necessarily taking his defensive coordinator's side, whether he felt disrespected by the 2.75. There's talks out there that he had tried to come to an agreement a couple days before the national championship, and the day after, and that he had just signed an extension recently, and they felt like 2.75 was enough. Take that for what you will, but the guy had the number one defense in the country, and when you have the number one defense in the country and you just won a national championship, I think you kind of have all the cards in your hand.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny too, like whenever you hear it's not because of money, it's not like he's gonna go take a job for $50,000 because out of the kindness of his heart.
Right.
Jim Knowles is doing fine. And what the correct figure is, I'm not entirely sure. I will tell you this. Sources lie all the time, especially if they know somebody is leaving, because they want the impression out there that, oh, we did everything we could to keep Jim, and what are you going to do? Jim left. So what's the real number? And is what his fiance is saying, is that 100% true either? I don't know. I don't know. But what I do, like I said, what I do know is sources lie all the time about figures, and they want to put on a good face for the fans that, oh, we did everything we could to keep Jim. And really, the only people who honestly know are probably Jim Knowles and Ryan Day, and whoever whoever the money guy is at Ohio State. But regardless, Penn State put up enough money to be competitive. And you know something else that's pretty cool, guys? They didn't think this was going to come from little old Penn State. I think there's an impression of Penn State in the conference and nationally that we're just like a little mom and pop store. Like a little, they make good bread. And their hoagies are to die for, but they ain't no Walmart. And I think that's the impression of Penn State. And that's why I think Ohio State's feeling a little blindsided today.
I think there's a lot of that going on. I also think that what she wrote there too, like they were the Ohio State fans were trying to drag Knowles through the mud, that he would rain on the parade on Sunday, and how like he didn't even want to say goodbye to the players and he wasn't responding to anybody. Like that to me is where you draw the line. Like if you want to say he would have got the same amount of money, or you don't think he's a good coach, or from a football perspective, or he didn't get along with Larry Johnson, that's fine. But to say like he doesn't care about his players or like didn't want to celebrate with them, I find that hard to believe for any coach. And B, now you're attacking him like at a personal level, that he's just a shitty human being, and that's a pretty shitty human being thing to do about another human being. So don't love that aspect of it. But the bottom line, Jim Knowles from Philadelphia originally went to St. Joseph Catholic High School, prep. And by the way, Sean, since we're going to just kind of move out of the big picture stuff into the more details, let's talk about that next. Look, it's funny. I tweeted something from the Twitter account yesterday saying, hey, an underlying plus to this is that defensive coordinator Jim Knowles is a former St. Joe's prep guy. Penn State has not recruited a St. Joe's prep guy except for this last class in Cam Smith. Had not recruited one since 2015 in cornerback John Reed. Sean, you brought that up, the St. Joe's prep stuff, when Smith committed back in the summer, July. And all I tried to throw out there was, it doesn't hurt that he went there, and it doesn't hurt that he's from Philly, and he might have some influence. And then next, we have a lava flow of Ohio State fans coming in to our mentions and trying to tell us, oh, he doesn't recruit, and he doesn't do anything like that, and somebody should let these guys know he doesn't recruit. Well, it's the funny thing about the world is sometimes you have to wait a while to have retribution, and then other times you get that instantaneous gratification. And by the time we are recording this on Monday night, from Blue White Illustrated, St. Joe's prep defensive line Alex Haskell says, and I quote, "I really like the move. Coach Knowles has been the leader of one of the top defenses in the nation for many years. So I think he could really take Penn State's already elite defense to another level. Also, he's a St. Joe's prep guy, so you can't go wrong there." And then, end quote, by the way. And then 24/7 Sports Tyler Calvaruso, a little Russo bomb, earlier tonight, tweets out, quote, "New Penn State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles has officially been on the job for less than 24 hours. He is already active on the recruiting trail. Earlier Tuesday, he touched base with a notable target on the defensive line." And then it's a VIP article after that. Sean, I'm confused here. Does he not recruit, or does he recruit? Because early indications, less than 24 hours in, is holy shit, he actually can recruit.
I mean, first off, again, what did we say after the Ohio State-Michigan game? Michigan, they're the worst winners. Ohio State, they're the worst losers. And this continues to be true to this day. They are insufferable when something doesn't go their way, and most things in their life do go their way. They just won the freaking title. So yeah, they're doing fine, but they still, the slightest inconvenience, they throw a temper tantrum, and that's what we're seeing right now. So everybody just bear with Ohio State. They'll be okay. It'll be okay, guys. But yeah, it's. And look, to what they're saying, is Knowles known as an ace recruiter? No. But that's not what Cory was saying.
No.
What's going to be true, though, it's almost self-evident, if you hire the best defensive coordinator in the country, or one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, the guy that just won the national championship, his pedigree is going to speak for itself. He doesn't necessarily need, and it's not his role, and by the way, it wasn't Manny Diaz's role either, to be calling recruits, all day, every day. That may not be his role, and that's okay. But he is going to be able to go into a recruit's house and put his ring on the table. And that's something that we really don't have here. We don't have a coach to point at, go, this guy is going to not only get the NFL, but if you play for him, he might help you win a national championship and develop you into the best player you could be. And that's what we have right now with Jim Knowles. So it's almost self-evident. His ring is going to speak for itself.
Just to wrap up that kind of whole thought there too. I mean, Penn State, call it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, hell, even probably 4 years ago, really struggled in Philly. Still at times struggles in Philly. Doing a little bit better with Emotep. Got a guy now from St. Joe's prep as well. Deion Barnes is a huge reason for that. If things do go better in Philly moving forward, I don't want this to be like a me just beating my fist on the table for Jim Knowles now, which I probably will do because it really pisses off the Ohio State fan base. But in all seriousness, Deion Barnes deserves an insurmountable amount of credit for this. I mean, he's done a lot of good in the Philly area, from Philly originally. He's recruiting that area very well, and he deserves 90% of the credit. But I'm going to give 5% to Jim Knowles moving forward just because.
Yeah. I mean, it's not gonna hurt having a guy like him as we continue to double down on Philly. Just somebody familiar with the area and familiar with that school in general. And Ohio State itself has recruited St. Joe's Prep well over the years. Kyle McCord went to St. Joe's Prep. Marvin Harrison Jr. went to St. Joe's Prep. So it's a hotbed for them, and it's a way in the door. It helps getting us in the door, going forward here down the line.
Absolutely. So Mike Edmondson on X. Let me just get to his question next, because he's asked this question twice, which I respect somebody who asked the same question twice on the same live show. We don't get that many questions in general. So someone's going to ask us a question, not just once, but twice. God damn it, Mike. I respect it. He asked, what do you see different in the defense under Jim Knowles? I'm assuming compared to Tom Allen. Well, we're not experts of the X's and O's. But we will give you Landon Tangwall came out with a good little piece if you haven't watched that yet. I actually haven't watched it yet, but I'm assuming it's good. Okay. So yep. you can testify that it is good. But I will tell you this. They both run a 4-2-5. So there's not going to be any huge overhaul. I don't think James Franklin would ever switch to like a 3-4 at this point. Like, I think he's going to always bring in a 4-3 multiple sort of defense regardless. It's a 4-2-5. Here's the thing that I want to kind of dance around, because I don't want to come off like I'm being disrespectful towards Tom Allen. But Jim Knowles does more of what Tom Allen did when Tom Allen was at Indiana versus when Tom Allen was at Penn State. Yep. I don't know if that was said during the YouTube video that Landon Tangwall had, but
it wasn't, but it's astute.
Whenever Tom Allen came to Penn State, I don't know if he just decided that my guys are better than your guys and just took a Larry Johnson Sr. approach to the whole thing. But like, he didn't want to really do a lot pre-snap. He didn't really disguise nearly as much. Every once in a while he did. Don't take this the wrong way. But how do I say it? It didn't seem like he worked extremely hard to disguise what he was doing, or just didn't seem like he cared if the the offense knew what they were doing, because he just felt like he had better players. And that worked probably 90% of the time. I wish it would have worked one better time when Cam Miller fell over, but for the most part, like, it worked. Jim Knowles is, in a sense, going to get back to some of what we saw with Manny Diaz. I don't think he's going to be as in the bag as Manny Diaz, because Manny Diaz is just a crackhead, to be fair, with how he disguises things. But Jim Knowles is going to do a lot more of that. So expect to see, 4 or 5 guys lined up on one side. Then you got to figure out who's actually coming. He's going to disguise his coverages on the back end to confuse people. Think about like the deny Dennis Sutton interception kind of moment. Like, part of the beef with Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson Sr. was Larry Johnson Sr. just wanted his defensive line to go get the quarterback. He didn't want the defensive line stunting. He didn't want the defensive line playing contain. He didn't want his defensive line dropping into coverage. Like, he just wanted his guys to go be guys. And to a certain extent, I can respect that from Larry Johnson Sr. But in today's college football, I mean, just look at that. The denied Dennis Sutton interception should have been the difference in that football game, and it was a well-designed play and a hell of a catch, but denied Dennis Sutton. That's more to what you should expect with Knowles. I also think he does an extremely good job with how he uses his third safety on the field. And he finds ways to get his best players around the football. take Caleb Downs, for example. I really wish Kevin Winston Jr. was staying for another year, because watching what Jim Knowles would have done with Kevin Winston Jr. would have been fantastic. I don't know if Zakee Wheatley can fill that role. I feel like maybe Wheatley is just a little bit more of a coverage guy and a wide side of the field kind of guy versus, in the box and bouncing around to tight ends and whatnot. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen in that sense, but he's going to have fun with those kind of personnel, those other safeties, those other nickel backs. He's going to move them around and put them in advantageous positions while staying very aggressive. Not Manny Diaz level aggressive, but aggressive.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, like you said, 4.25 is the big obvious similarity. But just more exotic looks from him, from Jim Knowles than we saw with Tom Allen. Like you said, not that Tom Allen never got in his bag, but it was a lot more rare, especially against teams that were lesser. Things were very, very vanilla. Almost on a weekly basis. And it's just a differing, like you said, differing philosophy. Whereas Knowles, you're going to see a lot more stunting, which does mean a little more risk. But there was more risk with Manny. There were times that Manny's defenses got burned. He just lived with it though, because he's going to create havoc. And I think that's a lot. I think that's more what you're going to see with Jim Knowles. And I think one of the reasons this job is attractive to him is he's going to be the head coach of the defense. And I don't think he's not going to have, one of the best defensive line coaches of all time telling him, Sonny, you're doing it wrong, like he had with Larry Johnson.
Is that what Larry Johnson Sr. sounds like?
that just a generic old guy voice. Sonny, what are you doing out here?
you think we can probably get confirmation from somebody if he actually referred to anybody in his entire career as Sonny?
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm not talking about Sonny Styles either.
He probably did call him Sonny.
Yeah, he called him Sonny. That was it.
Now you threw me off completely there. Yeah, the argument I'm seeing from Ohio State fans is like, oh yeah, they had a really good defensive personnel, which is obviously true.
Don't say. Yeah.
Look, there's no doubt about that, right? Like, you can't have the number one defense by just having anybody out there, right? You had arguably, in my opinion, the second best defensive player in the country in Caleb Downs. You had Jack Sawyer and JTT, who didn't really do much their entire career, but decided to have a really good playoff run. Is it Malik? Or is it Tyleek? Tyleek?
Yeah, Tyleek Williams.
Tyleek Williams, thank you.
Yep.
He is very underrated. I think he's a first round pick in my eyes. I don't know if he will go in the first round, but I really like Tyleek Williams. I want to say Malik Williams for some reason. And then the linebackers, like between Styles and Cody Simon, like I think their linebacker play was severely underrated this entire year. I think their linebackers were really good for Ohio State this year. And all I'm trying to get at here is, like, Ohio State fans can say whatever they want. They have a lot of rebuilding to do on their side. I mean, I know they get Caleb Downs back, and I know they're going to reload and have a bunch of really good guys come back per usual. But as far as proven folks on that team, there's not a bunch on there.
Yeah. And don't forget the portal guys. And Caleb Downs is from down south.
You hinting at something?
Maybe. You just never know. You just never know. And I just want to say one more thing too.
Yes. Sorry.
One of the things that I saw from multiple Ohio State fans too is saying it's going to takes a year to learn Knowles' system. And I think that's true and it's false, because you look at the first year with Oklahoma State, because he was at Oklahoma State prior to Ohio State. Oklahoma State's defense was not very good. But Oklahoma State's defense was a dumpster fire that he inherited. So it's hard, chicken poop out of chicken salad under chicken poop. It's kind of hard. And then if you remember Ohio State's defense in 2021, it wasn't very good. It's why they had a team with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, and I don't even think they made the playoff that year. So that's it was a different style defense. See, they didn't run a 4-2-5 the year prior. So we already run a 4-2-5, and we have a better defense than Ohio State did the year prior. We had a better defense in 2024 than they had in 2021. So I think we're actually a little bit more ready for him than Ohio State was at that point.
The 2021 defense for them, the one that was giving up a lot of pass plays, was that year?
Yeah, like we moved the ball pretty well on them in 2021. We just turned the ball over too much. It was the game where Rasheed Walker had to tell Sean Clifford to throw the ball because he got beat so bad.
All right, we do have another question here from One Take State. Is Jim Knowles a head coach in the making, and has seen the pipeline of defensive coordinator to head coach at a Penn State, and is jumping on the chance? Or is he a true defensive coordinator and wants to stay defensive coordinator on a perennial playoff team? Yeah, well, first of all, a lot of people were like, this is not a lateral move. This is a downgrade move, blah, 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 blah. Jim Knowles is what, 59, technically, going to be pretty much 60?
Yep.
He's older than Tom Allen, which I feel like maybe if you would just ask a random person on the street about that, I feel like they would think Tom Allen's older. I mean, I know Jim Knowles also looks old, but like you said last week's episode, like people think Tom Allen's like a year or two away from retirement, and he's not.
Yeah, he's James Franklin's age.
Jim Knowles has been a head coach before. To just clear that up, he was the head coach where he played football as a defensive end for Cornell from 1983 1986. He was a head coach there from 2004 to 2009, where he went a whopping 26-34, Sean. So take that for whatever you will. Went and then became the DC at Duke under good old David Cutcliffe. Where previously before he was actually a linebackers coach under Cutcliffe at Ole Miss, way before he was even the head coach at Cornell. Then obviously he was at Oklahoma State for a while with under Mike Gundy. You know, their defense was not great for the first couple of years at Oklahoma State. Just overall yards per game, it's like in the 400s for the first couple of years. Then it slowly got better. And then in 2021, when he went to Ohio State, like Penn State was very interested in him at that point too.
Yes.
So this is kind of a credit Penn State. Like they wanted him back then, and Ohio State won that bid, and it worked out for everybody, I guess, to a certain extent. But this is a guy who, whether he was at Oklahoma State or whether he was at Ohio State, he would have had plenty of opportunities to stay at Ohio State and become a head coach if he wanted to. He didn't need to come to Penn State to eventually become a head coach. So my 2 cents on this, to answer One Take State's question in a roundabout way, I don't think he's coming to Penn State to become a head coach. He could have became a head coach if he expressed that interest to his agent after winning a national championship as a defense coordinator. The stock doesn't get any higher than that. If anything, he's taking more of a risk to come to Penn State. So I'm not saying he doesn't ever want to become a head coach again, but he hasn't been a head coach since 2008, 2009. That's a long time to not. You think at some point he would have tried to be a head coach again if he wanted to be, and he hasn't really kind of pursued that. So I don't want to say never, but I don't expect that to be a thing. And Sean, the other part of this is if you're not going to lead to be a head coach, and as long as you don't stink, and you just left Ohio State, you're already the highest paid assistant coach in the country. I don't see him leaving anytime soon.
As long as he's happy here, yeah. I don't think so either, because he has shown, I mean, he literally just showed that if he's not happy, he is willing to move on. So yeah, I mean, as long as he's good here, and albeit Philly's 2 hours away, he is close to home. well, maybe a little more than 2 hours, but
He
he's
lives
not
just outside of Philly.
technically, yes. And outside of Pittsburgh, because it's right in the middle there. So yeah, he's closer to where he grew up, which I don't think hurts. And yeah, I think as long as he's happy, this might be the last stop for him, which I think would be cool to end it here. Hopefully not for a long, long time. Like if being a head coach is increasingly a young man's game in college football. You look at the national semifinals, for example. Ryan Day is in his 40s. Marcus Freeman's in his 30s. James Franklin, either James Franklin or Sark, I think they're right around the same age. They're the old guys there.
Yeah.
And they're not old. Like they still have a lot of coaching left to do. So and not to mention Boise State, I forget Boise State's name, but he's a younger guy.
He's very young.
Yeah. The only real gray beard of the group, I think, is Indiana's coach. And he's not super old either. So
Spencer Danielson,
yeah. So it's just increasingly a young man's game. You see the old heads retire every single year now.
You forget Signetti's name? Is that what you said?
Kurt Signetti, yeah.
So sorry.
I was not disrespecting Sig.
It sounded like you need to take a Sig break. You're right, though. It's not. Sorry, I got distracted because Mike Edmondson came back in and kind of honestly realigned our focus on the show because we were spiraling there for a second. He says, I found it very interesting that Anthony Poindexter met with him and is staying on. So thank you for...
Yep, we were going to bring this up.
And I think we would have got there eventually, but I appreciate you kind of refocusing us because... You know what? I just want to reiterate again. We let people do, a poll form, filled it out. Let us know what you liked about the show, what you want to improve on the show, what you want, to be done differently, etc. Nobody said the shows were too long, and one person said they wanted the shows to be longer. So you guys all had your chance to say you wanted shorter episodes, and nobody said shit. So now we're just going to go on endless rants and just fill in a bunch of dependent clause and run-on sentences for the end of time. No, Sean, yes, Anthony Poindexter allegedly met with Jim Knowles before this all was done. And the man just got paid. So tell us about that.
Yeah, Anthony Poindexter reportedly has a new contract and will be staying on. And look, guys, his safety room, you could argue... I mean, I think they were helped last year too by having it switching to 4-2-5. It's only going to help him. It's no secret that Tony Elliott's on a bit of a hot seat right now at Virginia, and I think Anthony Poindexter would like to be a head coach someday. And maybe Franklin was able to convince him, hey, it's better to be the safeties coach here. He is the co-defensive coordinator still, so maybe Knowles said, we'll take some input from you. I think they do have I gotta think they have a similar philosophy on football.
You think Jim Knowles, the man who couldn't get along with Larry Johnson Sr., is just going to take advice from Anthony Poindexter?
Little old Anthony Poindexter.
You got another thing coming, Sonny.
Hey, Sonny. Yeah,
sorry.
Maybe he comes from. Maybe he's like Andy Kotelnicki though, where he wants a collaborative effort. But yeah, I mean, maybe he's willing to take him under his wing a little bit. And the thing is, guys, like if you take a defensive coordinator job that isn't a very good one, just because you're mad that you got looked over, and I'm gonna show them. Well, you could end up in a crappy spot. A way crappier spot than being the co-defensive coordinator at Penn State and being the safeties coach at Penn State, especially when there's a job with your alma mater that could potentially be open soon. So I think it's a prudent move on Poindexter's part to kind of stay the course, not throw your hands up and get angry and take a job that just because there's a job available. Because I think a lot of guys, I think we've had guys that have done this over the years. I think that, well, I guess it worked out for Josh Gaddis, but reportedly Josh Gaddis not happy.
Did it work out for Josh Gaddis?
He won the Broyles Award. It didn't work out for his head coaching aspirations, though. And really, he was only successful.
The Broyles Award at Alabama. Where did he win the Broyles Award?
Michigan.
He won it from the offensive coordinator?
Double check me, but yeah, I believe he did.
I thought how?
I don't know. I didn't think their offense was that good.
It wasn't. That's why he was only there for 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm lying, but I think he did.
He won the Broyles Award. I just don't remember if it was there or not.
I'm pretty sure it was there. Because he actually left originally to go to Bama to be their receivers coach. So it was a total lateral move. And he might have gotten a co-OC job, but he would have got that at Penn State too.
You're right, dude. He won it in 2021.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's because they saw what he could do with Cade McNamara, and they're like, wow, he must be like a brain surgeon or something to be able to do that with them. So maybe that's what it was. So
that's a good point, I guess.
But, did it help his head coaching aspirations? In the final analysis, no. It did get him some offensive coordinator jobs, but Josh Gaddis is still not a head coach. I don't even know if he's coaching anywhere right now because he just got canned.
Who's that?
Gaddis.
Gaddis got canned?
He got canned in Maryland, yeah. I believe so.
When would that have happened?
I thought I saw it. Now, we were in the middle of our run.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, we were busy trying to win a national championship.
I did not. I can't believe. I thought he'd be at Maryland for a while. Okay.
Yeah, I was a little surprised he got fired. Like, they didn't have a whole lot there this year, but.
I did not. I missed that. And that was a while ago, dude. Holy crap. Month ago. Okay. So I was going to wrap all this kind of up by saying Penn State's done from a assistant coach perspective. They would have fired Marcus Hagans by now if they were going to go get a different guy. Josh Gaddis is out there. I don't know if James Franklin and Josh Gaddis ended on good terms.
I don't think they did.
I don't think
they may have made up, but they did not end well.
But I will say this. I'm not in the firing Marcus Hagans camp yet, by the way. But if you were going to do it, I would say you could only do that for Josh Gaddis. I mean, what Josh Gaddis has done from what he did at Penn State, let me take that back. What he did at Vanderbilt, what he did at Penn State, and what he did at Alabama from a coaching receivers perspective, I think I would consider doing that.
Yeah, I would too. As somebody who is in the Josh Gaddis, the fire of Marquise Hagans camp.
You are in that camp?
Yeah, after taking some time, after a couple weeks, I'm still there, and I'm like, yeah, we should probably do it. But though, the thing is, maybe you got to kind of trust Franklin on this. Nobody has ever said, let me make sure I'm not wrong here. Yeah, I don't think James Franklin's ever held on anybody too long. I'll give him that for sure. Like, I don't think there is a coach that I could think of where I thought we should have fired him last year. Maybe John Donovan. But even that, I understood why we didn't fire him after 2014 because the offensive line was so bad. But he's the only one that I could kind of think of that we hung on to too long.
I have a terrible past history, Sean, where I actually defended John Donovan for way too long.
I did too. Don't feel bad. But it's because the offensive line was so awful.
I still don't know if anybody would have been able to do much those first 2 years, especially with the only thing you could argue is just get rid of our boss and just start Trace early.
Hack just wasn't a fit there either.
Just from the sense of your quarterback is going to literally have to run for his life.
Yeah.
And like nothing else, Trace McSorley could run for his life better than Hack. Like
No.
that would have been the only reason to do so at that point. But like it was bad. But yeah, I defended John Donovan because you're right. I was like, the offense line is so bad. Sean, the only other news I wanted to bring up was that Penn State running back commit Messiah Minkins in the 2026 class has shut down his commitment, whatever the heck that exactly means. And, oh, by the way, Penn State did pick up a commit on Junior Day.
Yep.
From a 3-star cornerback in the 2026 class, Julian Peterson from Winslow Township in New Jersey. Athlete, but most likely a corner. Top 10 guy in the state of New Jersey. I don't know if I have anything else I necessarily want to add to that.
Yep, I was going to bring that up.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Julian Peterson, 6'1", 175, like you said, top 10 player in Jersey. To be honest with you, I haven't dug into him a whole lot yet. But Junior Day was this past week. I do got to think that they're probably told the news of Jim Knowles, because this was something you kind of heard about all on Friday, behind the scenes, that this could happen. So I do wonder if that had some kind of impact. But I do think he was trending toward Penn State for a long time. So I will dig into him more, and I should be able to give you more the next podcast.
Fair enough. I guess we'll take that for now, Sean. It's not your best work, but we'll let it slide.
All right. Well, thanks, man.
Are we good, Sean?
I think so. Hey, it's a good day to be a Nittany Lion, everybody. Yesterday was a momentous day. I can't say that enough. And it's not just about Jim Knowles. It's about everything else.
Really excited. Say what you will about how the season ended. It's been a really fun 2 months for Penn State football.
Yep.
Didn't end exactly the way we wanted to, but it's been fun. And honestly, we didn't really talk about it, but we mentioned that nobody had really entered the transfer portal, but I thought there was going to be more people entering the transfer portal, honestly. It actually is kind of insane how, you know what? I did forget one player in the last episode, forgot to mention. Safety Tyrese Mills also entered the transfer portal. And I was listening to the episode, and I was like, I thought there was a safety. And I never actually said Tyrese Mills on the episode.
Tyrese Mills entered too. So
yeah,
that's very bad.
Yeah, I sucked on that one. I apologize to everybody. I will try to do better in 2025, but honestly, don't have too high of expectations for me. But no, I thought there was gonna be more, and there really wasn't. And so I'm sure there'll probably be a couple more after spring. See exactly where the depth chart's kind of hanging out at, but all in all, like, it's been a hell of a 2.5 months, and very excited. Appreciate everyone being here live on YouTube. I thought maybe the attendance would go down after the season. Definitely not the case. So I appreciate all of you hanging out live on YouTube. If you haven't, please make sure to like that video. And if you haven't already subscribed to State Media, please make sure you've done that as well. If you're listening on Podcast Plus, wow. I don't know why that is so hard for me to say.
That's tough. Yeah.
If you're listening on podcast platforms, double check that you're subscribed to wherever you're listening, because sometimes you think you're subscribed somewhere and it's actually just recommending it for you, and you're not actually subscribed. That just knows that you're a degenerate and likes to listen to our show. So make sure you've done that as well. But otherwise, I'm not saying we're going to be like once a week only, and I'm not going to say it's always going to be on Sunday night. I think, Sean, at the bare minimum, we'll be back once a week. But I think we just kind of say, like, if we got a lot that we want to talk about, we might just do a show. And so That's what I got for right now. Shawn, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I'm just very, very excited. Did you one other thing? Did you see Joel Klatt had us number 1 going into next year?
Yeah.
What does that mean? First off, it was weird to see us with the number 1 next to us. It was just strange. It's like, I don't know how I feel about this.
He just wants us to not be mad about the big noon kick, and that's not going to happen.
Is he trying to get back in our good graces after pissing us off for 3 months?
Somebody did ask us that early in the chat about what we thought the whiteout game was going to be. We'll talk about that more a little bit later. But
there's a correct answer. I don't know if it would be the answer, though.
Yeah, I would expect it to not be Oregon. So.
That would be awful.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. That's Shawn Kane. I'm Cory Lestochi. You've been listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. Until next time,